Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Deep Dive, brought to you by your daily English dose.
We're really glad you're tuning in.
Absolutely. Today, we're cutting through the noise on a topic that's, well, it's vital if you really want to master English in today's world.
That's right. We're talking about cultural intelligence.
Exactly.
Mm.
This isn't just about learning vocabulary or grammar. It's about mastering those, invisible rules of communication.
The ones you need to really succeed globally.
It's about learning how to truly connect across different cultures using English.
Right. And our mission today, really, is to help you move from just being an English speaker to becoming a truly culturally intelligent communicator.
Mm-hmm.
We want to give you the tools, the insights you need to navigate those sometimes tricky intercultural situations.
Avoid those misunderstandings that can be so frustrating.
Exactly. And build stronger, more meaningful relationships around the globe. You'll start to see why understanding the cultural context is just as important as the words themselves.
It's like you said, the next level of English mastery.
It really is.
I love that. So where do we start this journey? Well, it really begins with the work of cultural anthropologist Edward T. Hall back in the 70s.
Ah, yes, Hall. Foundational stuff.
His concepts of high context and low context communication. Think of it as the hidden framework under every conversation.
And what's really fascinating, I think, is how these styles are everywhere, but we often don't even notice them.
Right. And that's where the friction comes in.
Totally. So imagine low-context communication. It's like ordering a very specific coffee online, right?
Right.
You have to spell out everything, the size, the milk, the sugar, no sugar, oat milk. Every single detail has to be stated clearly.
Otherwise, you don't get what you want.
Exactly. Now, high context, that's more like walking into your favorite neighborhood coffee shop.
Where they know you.
Precisely. The barista sees you, maybe gives a nod, and they know your usual order. The meaning gets across through shared history, unspoken cues, context.
That coffee analogy really nails it. So let's break down low-context cultures first. Communication is clear, direct.
Laser focused on the message itself.
And if you're the one talking, the sender, it's your job, your responsibility to make sure that message is crystal clear. No room for doubt.
Absolutely. These cultures value verbal clarity, logic, written proof. Think detailed documents, contracts.
Rules are written down.
Right. Signs, manuals, detailed contracts that are pretty rigid once signed. Business can often feel quite transactional.
And typical examples are places like the US, Canada, Australia, Germany.
Yeah, many Western European roots there where directness is often prized.
Okay, now let's flip to high context cultures.
Yeah.
Here, the communication style is much more implicit.
Implicit, nuanced, definitely more relationship focused. A lot of the meaning isn't actually in the words spoken.
It's in the nonverbal stuff.
Exactly. Tone of voice, gestures, facial expressions, pauses. And crucially, the shared background, the context between the people talking.
And here, the responsibility shifts, doesn't it?
It does. The receiver is the one expected to kind of, read between the lines, understand the unspoken message.
That's a huge difference.
Huge. These cultures tend to prioritize group harmony, saving face, that's your reputation, your social standing, and building long-term relationships.
So actions are guided more by social norms.
And personal enforcement, yeah. Less by strict written rules. Even contracts might be seen more as like a starting point for the relationship, something flexible.
And we see this often in Asian, African, Latin American countries, Japan, China, India, maybe even France, Brazil.
That's a good range, yes. Many operate this way.
So why the difference? Where does this all come from historically? It's not random, right?
No, not at all. There's a deep logic. Think about high context places like, say, Japan. Often homogenous societies, sometimes islands developing over centuries.
So they built up a lot of shared understanding.
Exactly. A deep shared history and context. That's where you get ideas like reading the air or a shindenshin, like telepathy. Directness wasn't always needed, sometimes even avoided to keep the harmony. Unspoken understanding is a real skill.
Okay, that makes sense.
Now contrast that with low context places like the US, a classic melting pot, right? Immigrants from all over.
So lots of different backgrounds, less shared context.
Precisely. For people to get along, to work together, to just understand each other without major issues, communication had to become really clear, really explicit.
And legal systems probably reinforce that.
Absolutely. Things like British common law, focusing on precise contracts to avoid disputes between strangers that really pushed things towards explicitness.
Okay, this is where it gets really practical for English learners, I think. This responsibility gap you mentioned.
Yes. This is probably the biggest source of frustration in intercultural teams.
Explain that gap again.
Okay. In high context cultures, the listener feels responsible for figuring out the meaning from the context. In low context, the speaker feels responsible for stating everything clearly.
So if you don't know which system the other person is using,
You're just talking past each other.
Done.
Constantly. It's maddening.
Give us an example.
Okay, think about a Japanese manager saying, yoroshiku tanamu. Simple phrase, right? Often translated like, please handle it, or I leave it to you.
Sounds straightforward.
But it's loaded. It carries unspoken expectations, this assumption of mutual understanding, a sense of obligation. The manager expects the subordinate to read the air, figure out the details.
Okay.
But an American subordinate, they hear that and think, handle what, how, when, I need more information. They expect the speaker to provide all necessary details.
Because for them, Yoroshiku Tanamu is an incomplete instruction.
Exactly. Not a delegation of responsibility based on shared context. Recognizing this gap, who expects what is honestly the first huge step to better communication.
That's such a key insight for anyone using English globally. So just to quickly recap Hall's framework, low context goal, efficient info transfer, high context, building relationships,
Right.
low context values, individual achievement, directness, high context, group harmony, face. Language style is explicit versus implicit, and responsibility for clarity shifts from sender to receiver.
You got it. Keeping that basic difference in mind makes a massive difference.
Okay, so that's Hall's foundation. Now let's jump ahead to a really practical tool for today. Aaron Meyer's culture map.
Ah, Meyer. Very useful for business contexts.
It builds on Hall, but it gives us more like a modern GPS for global communication. It looks at countries on 8 specific dimensions.
And the key thing is relative positioning. It's not labeling cultures as good or bad. It's about seeing how they compare to each other on these scales. Helps avoid stereotypes.
Right, avoids putting people in boxes. So what are these 8 scales?
Okay, Meyer breaks it down really nicely. She looks at...
Communicating, that's our high context versus low context we just discussed.
Got it.
2, evaluating how directly or indirectly you give negative feedback. Big one.
Definitely tricky.
3, persuading principles first, starting with the theory, versus applications first, starting with the examples.
Interesting.
4, leading egalitarian, flat structures versus hierarchical, very status conscious.
Deciding, is it consensual, everyone agrees, or top-down, the boss decides. 6, trusting task-based, built on work results, versus relationship-based, built on personal connection.
Disagreeing. Are people confrontational, embracing debate, or do they avoid confrontation for harmony?
Scheduling is time linear, strict plans, or flexible and adaptable.
Wow, okay, that's a lot of dimensions. But seeing them laid out helps. Let's maybe compare a few key countries, like the US, Germany, Japan, China. How do they map out?
Yeah, comparing them is where you see fascinating patterns and potential friction points.
What's surprising?
Well, here's one. Japan. We think of it as hierarchical, right? But on the deciding scale, Japan is actually one of the most consensual cultures. Decisions take time, involve everyone.
That's counterintuitive.
It is. And conversely, the U.S., which is generally seen as egalitarian, often has a much more top-down decision-making style compared to, say, Germany, which is highly consensual.
So leadership style and decision-making aren't always linked.
Not at all. They're separate dimensions. Understanding that is crucial when you're working in English with international teams. You can't just assume. I remember working with some managers, and they found collaborating with their Chinese and Japanese teams more challenging than bridging, say, general Europesia differences.
Really? Why was that?
The culture map showed why. Both Japan and China are high context, right? And they both tend to avoid confrontation.
Okay.
But on deciding, Japan is highly consensual and linear time, while China is more top-down and flexible time. So the Chinese team perceived the Japanese as incredibly slow and rigid, while the Japanese saw the Chinese as rushing things and being disorganized.
Without the map, they'd just be frustrated.
Exactly. It shows why we need these more nuanced tools to really get global communication right.
That really brings it to life. Okay, quick summary, using the map for those 4 countries.
Low context, direct feedback, applications first, egalitarian but top-down deciding, task-based trust, confrontational disagreement, linear time. Germany. Similar, in many ways, low context, direct feedback, egalitarian confrontational, very linear time. But principles first, persuasion, and highly consensual deciding.
Right. Key differences there.
Japan.
Yeah.
Very high context, indirect feedback, applications first, hierarchical but super consensual deciding, relationship-based trust, avoids confrontation, linear time.
Got it.
China. Also high context, indirect feedback, applications first, hierarchical, but top-down deciding, relationship-based trust, avoids confrontation, and crucially, flexible time.
Perfect. Those are great reference points for anyone using English internationally.
Okay, we've got the theory. Let's make it super practical. How does this apply in real business scenarios you face when speaking English? First up, disagreeing diplomatically. This feels like a major cultural minefield.
Oh, it absolutely is. Because the meaning of disagreement itself varies so much.
How so?
Well, in some cultures, like Germany or France, a good debate is seen as healthy. It sparks innovation. But in others, maybe Japan or Indonesia, openly disagreeing can feel like a personal attack or a threat to the group's harmony.
So yelling in a Paris office might just be hashing things out.
Could be productive, yeah. But do that in Tokyo. You could cause someone to lose face completely. Relationship potentially ruined.
Wow. Okay, so how do we navigate this? What can English learners do to handle disagreement effectively?
Step 1. Use the culture map. Know your audience. Are you from a culture that embraces confrontation or one that seeks harmony? That's your starting point.
Okay, so if they're confrontational.
Be ready for a lively debate. Focus on logic, data, the issue itself. And try not to take it personally. It's often not meant that way.
And if they're harmony-seeking.
This is critical.
Yeah.
Never disagree openly in front of others, especially their team. That causes huge loss of face.
Right.
Use softer, more indirect language. And seriously consider having a quiet one-on-one chat before a group meeting to raise your concerns privately. It shows respect.
That makes sense. So for English speakers, what are some practical phrases, our toolkit for disagreeing politely?
Good question. You need ways to soften the blow, especially in harmony-seeking cultures. Try things like, I see your point, but I have a slightly different perspective. Or, that's a valid point, and maybe we could also consider.
Okay, acknowledging first.
Exactly. Or show partial agreement. I agree with you up to a point, but... Or, I understand what you're saying, however.
What about using questions?
Great tactic. Instead of I disagree, try an indirect question. Have you thought about the potential challenges with that approach? It opens discussion without direct confrontation.
And sometimes you just can't agree.
Then you might need, I understand where you're coming from. Perhaps on this specific point, we'll have to agree to disagree for now. And remember that nuance we touched on. Criticizing ideas versus criticizing people.
Right, like Israel being direct on feedback, but high context generally.
Exactly. Or the U.S. being low context, but often indirect with negative feedback. Some cultures allow fierce debate about an idea, but are very sensitive to anything that sounds like personal criticism.
So you could argue strategy with a French colleague.
Passionately. But you'd need a much gentler touch for their performance review. Differentiating the idea from the person is key.
That's a really helpful distinction. Okay, that leads us right into scenario 2. Giving constructive feedback. Why is this so often messed up across cultures?
Oh, the potential for misunderstanding here is enormous. The delivery styles are just so different.
Like the American feedback sandwich.
Classic example. Positive, negative, positive. A French employee might hear the two positives and totally miss the crucial negative bit in the middle. They walk away thinking they're doing great.
While their boss thinks they've delivered a serious warning.
Precisely. Or think about a Japanese manager using very subtle hints, maybe long pauses, indirect phrasing. A Western subordinate waiting for clear, direct feedback might completely miss the message.
So is there a framework that works better across cultures, something more neutral for English learners?
The SBI model is often recommended, situation, behavior, impact.
SBI.
It focuses on objective facts. Instead of saying, you were really unprofessional, which is a judgment you say. In the client meeting this morning, situation, when you interrupted the client multiple times, behavior, I noticed they seemed hesitant to share more ideas afterwards. Impact.
So it's factual, less personal.
Exactly. Less likely to trigger defensiveness. It describes what happened and its effect. And you also need to be aware of language intensity, upgraders and downgraders.
Okay, what are those?
Upgraders make feedback stronger. Words like absolutely, totally, completely. You might hear, this is absolutely unacceptable in direct cultures like the Netherlands or Germany.
And downgraders.
They soften it. Words like maybe, perhaps, a little bit, kind of. So in Japan or Thailand, you might hear, maybe we could think about this a little bit differently. You need to tune your English accordingly.
So if I'm from a direct culture, I shouldn't just blast someone from an indirect culture with feedback the way I'm used to.
Please don't. It can come across as incredibly rude, even aggressive, if you just mirror directness without understanding the cultural context.
So what's the better approach?
Use clear, simple English, yes. But start positive, if possible. Use those downgraders strategically. And for very high context, indirect places like Japan or Korea, definitely give feedback one-on-one, keep it informal, maybe break it down over a couple conversations.
Let the message land gently.
Exactly. Allow them to process it without losing face publicly. Adaptability is everything.
It really is. You've got the U.S. sandwich, the direct French critique, the subtle Japanese approach. You really have to adjust. Okay, scenario 3. Making polite and clear requests. Getting this wrong can cost time and money, right?
Oh, absolutely. Think about misunderstandings about deadlines or tasks. I heard about a Japanese manager telling a foreign employee, just tidy up those parts in the warehouse.
Vague.
Very. The employee neatly stacked the parts on the floor. Manager meant put them on the shelves. Lack of specificity caused the error.
Or the classic ASAP.
Exactly. As soon as possible. To a German manager, that might mean immediately drop everything. To someone from India, it might mean when I get a chance, maybe later today or tomorrow. It's that expectation gap again.
High context assumes inference, low context expects explicit detail.
You got it.
So how do we make requests crystal clear, especially in English with mixed teams?
The 5W2H framework is your friend here. Who, what, when, where, why, how, and how much many.
Spell it out.
Completely. Don't just say, can you finish the report? Say, you who. Could you please email how the finalized Q3 sales analysis report
What?
directly to me where by 5 p.m. this Friday, when, because I need it for the executive review on Monday morning, why?
Leaves no room for doubt.
Especially when starting with new teams or across cultures. Over-communicating clarity is usually safer.
And how do we make these requests polite in English? We don't want to sound demanding. It's about those helper verbs, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Auxiliary verbs control the politeness level.
So the most direct is?
Just the imperative. Send me the report. Pretty low politeness.
Okay, a bit better.
Using can or will. Can you send the report or will you send the report? Better, more standard.
More polite stud.
Could or would. These add a layer of distance, making it more formal and respectful.
Yeah.
Could you please send me the report?
And the softest approach.
Using mind or possibly. Would you mind sending the report? Or could you possibly send me the report?
Yeah.
These are great for very hierarchical or high context situations. Now, here's the key takeaway for English learners in global settings. It's usually safest to default to a higher level of politeness, maybe using could or would.
Yay.
And crucially, remember that politeness and clarity are not enemies. You don't have to be vague to be polite.
That's a common trap, isn't it?
It is. You can absolutely combine them. Could you please ensure that the final report detailing points A, B, and C is on my desk by 4 p.m. sharp? That's both perfectly polite and perfectly clear.
Fusing politeness and clarity, that's advanced skill.
It really is a hallmark of a culturally intelligent communicator.
Excellent point. Okay, that brings us smoothly into building global relationships. Let's start with something we all use, email. Email etiquette must reflect these cultural differences too, right?
Oh, definitely. Email is like a window into culture. Think about formality. Germany, Japan, very formal. You'll see titles, full names, honorifics like Sehr geehrte Frau Dr. Müller or Suzuki-sama.
Compared to the U.S.
Much less formal, often. Hi, Sarah. Even to your boss might be fine. China tends to respect hierarchy, so titles, full names, often surname first, like Dear Director Lee, are important.
What about structure, directness?
Germans, Americans usually direct. State the purpose up front. Get straight to the point. Japanese, Chinese emails, often more indirect. They might start with seasonal greetings or pleasantries before getting to the main topic.
And bad news.
Often implied. Soften. You really have to read between the lines. And reply times differ too. Germans often expect prompt and thorough answers. Americans often value speed, even a quick, got it, we'll look into this. Chinese partners often appreciate very fast responses too.
What about things like emojis or jokes in business emails?
Generally, play it safe. Avoid them, especially with new contacts or across cultures. What seems funny or friendly to you might be confusing or unprofessional to someone else. Stick to a clear professional tone unless you know the person very well.
Okay. Are there hidden meanings we need to watch out for, especially from high context cultures?
Yes, absolutely. Remember the saving face concept. Emails are often used for this. A direct no can be uncomfortable.
So they might say something else.
Exactly. You might get, "We will consider your proposal carefully," or "That might be somewhat difficult at this time." A low-context person hears possibility, but often in high-context cultures, that's a polite way of saying no.
Wow. So it's not deception.
Not usually, no. It's a cultural strategy to maintain harmony and avoid direct refusal. As the receiver, especially if you're from a low-context background, you need to learn to decode this.
And how should you follow up on something like that?
Gently, indirectly. Instead of, "So is it a yes or no?" But try something like, "Just wondering if you've had any further thoughts on the proposal we discussed last week." Less pressure respects their indirectness. It makes your English communication much more effective.
That's fascinating. It completely changes how you interpret things.
Yeah.
Okay, let's shift to small talk for trust building. Erin Meyer talks about two kinds of trust, right?
Yes, this is fundamental. She distinguishes between task-based trust and relationship-based trust.
Task-based is.
Cognitive trust, common in places like the US, Germany, the Netherlands. Trust is built through performance. You do good work, you're reliable, you meet deadlines, therefore I trust you. Business often comes first, relationships might develop later.
And relationship-based.
That's effective trust,
Mm-hmm.
common in China, Japan, Brazil, Mexico, Saudi Arabia. Trust comes from the heart, from a personal connection. Shared meals, getting to know each other, finding common ground outside of work.
So the relationship has to come before the business.
Often, yes. You need to build that personal connection, that rapport, before you can really work together effectively. The relationship is the foundation.
Which means small talk isn't just filler in those cultures.
Not at all. In relationship-based cultures, small talk is core work. It's the process of building that essential trust. The first meeting might be almost entirely small talk, maybe over lunch or dinner. It's a strategic investment, and mastering this is a key English skill for global business.
Okay, practical advice time. Let's create a quick global small talk guide for our listeners. Universally safe topics.
Generally, safe ground includes travel experiences, food and cooking, sports, if you know they're interested, the weather, yes, really, and local attractions or art. Pretty low risk.
And the big no-nos. Universally taboo topics.
Definitely avoid. Politics, religion, asking about salary or personal wealth, details of relationships or sex life, office gossip, and highly controversial social issues. Just steer clear, especially early on. And remember, there are regional flavors too. Well, in the US, Canada, asking about hobbies or weekend plans is usually fine, but avoid politics. In the UK, weather, transportation woes, holidays are good chat. But don't get too personal about work or money.
Germany.
Hometown, food, art, maybe sports are good. Maybe hold back on jokes initially, and definitely avoid WWII topics.
Japan.
Talking about mutual contacts, Japanese food is safe. Personal stuff comes much later. And remember, silence isn't necessarily awkward. It can show thoughtfulness.
Right.
Hobbies, local food, hometowns are good. But be cautious around politics. Topics like Taiwan, Tibet, human rights are very sensitive. Knowing these nuances makes your small talk in English much more effective.
This deep dive really shows how much happens beyond words. Which brings us perfectly to our final section, your journey to cultural intelligence, or CQ. Let's define that first. What is CQ?
Sure. CQ, or cultural intelligence, is basically your capability to function effectively in situations characterized by cultural diversity.
So it's more than just knowing facts about countries.
Much more. It's about applying knowledge and adapting. It's usually broken down into 4 parts.
Okay, what are they?
First, CQ drive. That's your motivation, your interest, your confidence in engaging with different cultures. Do you want to learn? Second, CQ knowledge. This is understanding the concepts, the frameworks like high-low context, the culture map skills we've discussed, knowing the what and why.
Makes sense.
Third, CQ strategy. This is metacognition, thinking about thinking. It's your ability to plan for intercultural interactions, to make sense of what's happening during them, and to reflect afterwards.
And fourth.
CQ action. This is the behavior piece. Your ability to adapt your actions, verbal and nonverbal, appropriately for different cultural contexts without losing your own core identity. It's the doing part.
Drive, knowledge, strategy, action. A powerful model. So for our listeners, especially English learners wanting to work globally, what are concrete steps to boost their CQ?
Okay, number 1, self-assessment. Start by understanding your own cultural background, your own assumptions and biases. Where do you fall on those culture map scales? Knowing yourself is the first step.
And then keep learning, right?
Absolutely. Active learning. Don't let this be the end. Read books, Watch international films, maybe in English. Engage with people from different backgrounds. Be genuinely curious. Shows like this, Your Daily English Dose, are great for this.
What else?
Observation and listening. This is huge, especially in high-context settings. Pay attention not just to words, but to silence, body language, what's not being said. I knew someone from Mexico who really improved his relationship with a Japanese colleague just by carefully observing and understanding the context behind their seemingly blunt feedback. Listening deeply is a superpower.
Then you need a plan.
Yes, strategy and adaptation. Before a cross-cultural meeting, think about the culture map. Predict potential differences. During the interaction, stay flexible. Be willing to adjust your approach based on what you're observing. Experiment a little. Seek feedback. If you can, find trusted colleagues from different backgrounds and ask them in a safe way how your communication style comes across. How could I have handled that situation better? That kind of feedback loop is invaluable for growth.
This has been fantastic. It really drives home that cultural intelligence isn't some soft skill. It's essential for success today, especially if you're using English globally.
Totally agree. It's a critical 21st century competency. You look at global companies like Coca-Cola adapting in Africa, or Rakuten making English official but still needing CQ to make it work. The business benefits are real and tangible.
It's a journey, isn't it?
It is. Moving from just being an English speaker to being a culturally intelligent communicator takes effort, for sure. But the rewards, deeper connections, smoother collaboration, greater global success are immense. This is how you truly unlock the power of your English skills.
What an incredible deep dive today into those hidden rules of global communication. We really hope you feel more empowered now, not just to speak English, but to truly connect in English across any culture.
Remember, every single conversation you have is a chance to practice, to build that CQ muscle.
Absolutely. Every interaction is a learning opportunity on your English mastery journey.
And maybe a final thought to leave you with. Consider how understanding these nuances might not just boost your career, but how could it enrich your personal life, your friendships with people from all over the world?
Good point.
The ability to bridge these differences genuinely transforms every encounter, making you, I think, a more empathetic and effective person overall.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive from your Daily English Dose. Keep practicing, keep learning, and keep exploring the amazing world of English communication.
We'll see you next time.